Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneur Show. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. For anyone who's out there who's trying to find us, you can find us on Instagram at Justin the Food Entrepreneurs or at Justin Bizzarro, Bizzarro. You can find me on Facebook also, and you can find Gorilla Brave online at gorillabrave.love. You can find it on Facebook as well. There is a group there for all the food and beverage entrepreneurs, farmers, hospitality, nutrition entrepreneurs that want to be on there as well. There is that space for all of you guys, as well as you can find Gorilla Brave on Instagram. And we've recently launched on X, TikTok, and whatever else is out there. I don't know. I don't handle anything other than Facebook and Instagram. I let Ivan handle the rest. So anyway, it's all out there for you guys. If you have any questions, you can message me through Instagram, or I do have my phone number on Better with Bacon Fat, my cell phone number. I do answer that on there, but you just have to text first. So anyway, with that being said, I have a very special guest from South Philadelphia. His name is Joseph Betzala of Doughhead Pizza. How are you doing today, Joseph?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So let's just dive right into it. This is your show, Joe. This is why I'm trying to get you on here. Tell your story. How did Joseph become the food entrepreneur that he is today with what you're doing and the life that you're living? So we can go all the way down to little Joe to big Joseph, however far back you want to go, but it is yours. I do want to tell your story, and I want to make sure we can grab every lesson learned that we can grab out of it. So it's yours.
Sure. Well, yeah, thank you for having me. I'll jump right into it. It's been close to 40 years that I've been in the food business overall. I started out like most people, washing dishes, then moved to the front of the house, as a busboy. And again, I'm going back to ages 14, 15 years old. From there, we took a position as a server in front of the house. Moving forward, graduating high school, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grow up. And I still don't, to be honest with you. But I enrolled at the Philadelphia Restaurant School, which was at 22nd Walnut at the time. I signed up for their chef training program. It was a 16-month course, I believe. Graduated there and then just kind of put my head down and worked. I bounced around various restaurants and hotels for a number of years. And in 1997, I came across a little greasy spoon not far from my neighborhood I grew up in. It was for sale, and we turned that into Java Joe's. A long story short, we opened in 1997. It was a little 60-seat restaurant. It had 2 parking spots, but within 3 years, it grew to where we were doing, over 400 covers on a busy Sunday, and it was the hot spot at the time. We working 7 days a week, gets old real quick, but I had an opportunity in 2004. I sold it. From there, I started a catering company called Joseph's Catering. We were picked up by Penn State University's Brandywine campus, which was one of their satellite campuses out in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. And I ran the cafeteria, all the campus catering from 5 to 500 people. We had vending machines. And then with the university's permission, I started to build a private corporate catering business out of the back door, so to speak. In 2013, I sold that and went and just kind of roamed for about a year, took care of some personal things. And then we started a fast casual concept called Crisp Kitchen. Quickly grew into that from 2015, I think that finally opened. And we grew quickly into 3 locations, 2 in Center City, one by Temple University in North Philadelphia, 19th and Market in Center City, and then we had a 3rd location over in Marlton, New Jersey. Was expanding, doing very well. We tweaked the model, and then we started noticing the apps really coming to into their own. And we were looking at the model saying, oh, this is all going to be a takeout business. So we don't need these big giant, A+ locations where we're paying premium rent. So we started to downsize. I tweaked the model to, basically fit it in a shoebox and concentrate on, just doing all takeout. And then, as we're all aware, COVID hit and shut the world down, let alone our business. We hung in there for about a year and a half, but myself and the investors figured it was best to just shut it down and walk away. So that was kind of a tough pill to swallow. Not sure what I wanted to do next. I, saw my friends in the pizza business kill it during this time. They were prepared obviously for, all of a takeout business and service and whatnot. And pizza works. It's recession proof, it's pandemic proof. It's an industry that's just, I think, last numbers I heard, it's like a $60 billion a year industry, and it's not slowing down at all.
Well, and
So,
leave it to the Italians to create something that lasts the fall of empires, right? That's really what pizza
exactly.
is. So,
That's it. So yeah, and it's something that even if it's bad, it's still pretty good. So it's hard to mess it up, as tricky as it can be. So communicating with my network of people in the business, they told me that about this location that came up in South Philadelphia. I live out, out in the suburbs. I'm almost in Chester County, and I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to give the city a rest. It's a hike getting in and out. But they were like, well, hold on, wait a second. The location is right across from the infamous Pat Steaks, which they are about 100 years in business. Small family, mom and pop operation. They made Philly known for cheesesteaks. And I was like, okay, well, I can't turn that location down. So we still on the tail end of the pandemic, we got together, we figured out the construction and the material and all the equipment, everything we were going to need. And that was a slow process because it was difficult to get, material in at certain times and whatnot. But it took about a good year before we were ready to open up. And finally, in September of 2022, we unlocked the doors and away we went. So prior to that, the biggest unknown to me was making pizza itself. And what I mean by that is the dough. I had enough kitchen experience and training to, come up with various toppings and sauces and get as exotic and creative as I wanted to be. But the dough was the biggest mystery. I wanted to make something special. And, growing up, we had the Friday night treat of pizza, but I always remember grabbing that last slice or two. And when everyone was finished, the box was filled with what I called pizza handles. It was crust that, nobody ate the crust. Everybody just threw it back into the box. And I remember thinking, I want to make a pizza where there's nothing left but a couple grease stains and some crumbs.
AKA
So,
the dog treats. Yes. As an Italian and spending a lot of time in New York and Philadelphia in my life, the wasting the crust thing blows my mind. It's one of the best parts, but it's where you get to taste everything, the delivery system on its own. But anyway, but go ahead. I love where this is going. Actually, go on.
yeah. So I started experimenting and reading, and my stack of books grew from 2 to 5 to 12. And I'm like, man, for something that's only 4 or 5 ingredients, there could be a million variations. And
Yeah.
how to find that exact crunch. And, I knew what I wanted to see and taste, as far as a crust. I just was having a difficult time getting there. So luckily for us, there was a chef gentleman, his name is Gregorio Fiera, who's a South Philly boy, born and raised. His parents are from Italy, which part I do forget. So I apologize, Greg, for that. But he's a phenomenal person. He's a phenomenal chef. He's a pizza master like no other. And I was able to convey to him what I wanted in my pizza and my crust. And we worked together, and he taught me about dough and flour and the chemistry of baking and all that. And after I'd say about a month or two of working together, I think we hit the nail on the head. And I was very happy with the results of the pizza I was making, and we were able to get the doors opened. Even still, that being said, I have to be brutally honest, it was a good year before we really got our thumb on the pulse of dough. It's a living thing, and what you pull out in the morning is completely different in 2 hours. 2 hours later, and is completely different at the end of the night. So it's a product that is constantly changing, and like I said, it was a good year before we really got our finger on the pulse of how this dough works, how it reacts, how it does in specific temperatures and humidity levels and times of year. Obviously, it's a lot different in a hot, humid August day than it is in a day like today in February, where it's 22 degrees outside. So there was a huge learning curve, and still today it's constantly changing. So we're chasing it, so to speak. But we're getting much better at it. We're getting a lot more consistent, and yeah, it's been a wild ride, but business is going very well. We had Dave Portnoy review about 2 months ago. He came in and gave us a great score of an 8.2. Of course, I wasn't there. It was one of the few days I took off, and I called my manager. I'm like, "Hey, Just, I'm gonna head in a little bit. I'm gonna grab soda, pick up some supplies." He's like, "Dude, take the day off. It's kind of quiet today. It's rainy. It's slow." I'm like, "All right, you know what? You don't have to twist my arm." So about an hour later, he called me, and we haven't mentioned Dave's name in months. And he's like, "You're not gonna guess what just happened." And I'm like, "Don't tell me Portnoy was there." He's like, "Yep." I'm like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me! I can't believe I missed him." I was like, "Well, how did we do?" And he didn't hear the score yet, but I quickly went to the security cameras. I saw the time frame he came in. Luckily, we were slow at that time, and I saw my pizza guys do their thing. They didn't know who he was, and they just went and did their thing, made a pizza for him. Saw them cut the pizza, close the box, and hand it to him. So I was like, "Oh, thank goodness," because I know he's big on crunch, and I don't care how perfect you make the pizza, if it sits in that box, it's steaming and it's going to get soggy and whatnot. As important as the box is, it's probably one of the biggest killers of a good crunchy pizza over time. So, but fortunately, he got a fresh pizza, hot out of the oven, nice and crunchy. He loved it. He spoke very highly of us. He mentions us in the ranks of Angelo's, which is another very famous South Philadelphia pizzeria, and they do an incredible job. So to be named with them was an honor. And that following couple days after the post went live, business just blew up. We literally doubled our business overnight. And how many nights in a row we ran out of dough, and so we had to up our production and whatnot. And then yeah, it's been a wild ride. It has petered off a little bit, but I would say overall the new average is probably anywhere from 25 to 30% higher than what we were prior to his review.
Man, I love these things, and I love the impact of the reviews. And when we do our job well, when we've got the customer service down, we've got the model down. And in pizza, what's interesting about pizza, and there are things similar to this, although we tend to bake the bread and then put the meats on it. In this case, we have to create the dough like we're baking. Then we also have to cook some of the ingredients. Some of it go on fresh, but then you're also putting it through, in some ways, a baking oven, a pizza oven. And so there's a lot of uniqueness to pizza. And I agree, the humidity, the temperature, all of that starts to play impact. So I think it's a very unique thing. It also interestingly delivers such great flavor that I think that's why there's the, Detroit, New York, Brooklyn, sourdough only, all the types that are popping up, which I love also. I think pizza has nowhere else but to grow. As long as the population grows, pizza is going to grow. And I agree, it is recession proof, big time. So let's talk about lessons learned. Let's talk about things like that you along the way you wish you knew back then that now, type things for the audience, for any entrepreneurs out there that could gain anything, because I think your wisdom is what led to your high score today. This wasn't like, oh, overnight success, I made pizza and now I'm a big deal, I got an 8.2, I doubled my business overnight. No, to get there took years and dedication and serving your skill and your businesses and your employees and vendors, investors. So I think let's tap into that knowledge.
Yeah, it's definitely a culmination of, like I said, almost 40 years in the business. What you learn as a server, as a busboy, the kitchen discipline you pick up as a dishwasher even. It's all rolled into one. And that 5 minute spiel I gave you covered 30 some years. There's a lot of hard work in that. There's a lot of sacrifice, as anybody who knows who's in this business. If I could jump back real quick though about our model,
Yeah,
one
absolutely.
one of the things I forgot to mention is we only do pizza. I did not want to step into the world of having a 5 fold out page menu where we had hoagies and cheesesteaks, different appetizers. And, it was just, I wanted to control the inventory. I wanted to follow the KISS method, to keep it simple, stupid, and just focus on making a quality product. And that's what I was fixated on. And to be brutally honest, as much as I was passionate about that, I was equally as afraid. There's other models of businesses I had worked at or had owned. We had, massive menus and massive selections and whatnot. So I was really coming out of my comfort zone and just narrowing down a model that just served one product only, which is pizza, I should say. So, and I had visions of, well, maybe if we just did a fried chicken sandwich or, we did some fresh cut fries, but then, you're looking at the cost of more equipment, exhaust hood systems, extinguishing systems, insurance, the workload of and mess of dealing with friolators. And one of my partners in the business, he said, Joe, look, it's a great idea. It's something we can do maybe down the line. He said, but honestly, if we don't make it selling pizza at this location, a fried chicken sandwich isn't going to save us. And I was like, bam, you know what? You hit the nail on the head. That's perfectly right. And he was right. Thank goodness he said that, because I was able to really just fixate and concentrate on, working at figuring out this dough and how to make the pizza properly and consistently. Leaning into that, as far as other entrepreneurs, like you had said, all the various styles that are out there, the sourdoughs, people are using pre-ferments, spigas, poulishes, Detroit, the grandma, there's hundreds or not hundreds, but there's a lot of variations that this can be made into. And I had to find that balance of making something that was a passion project, but it had to be a viable business model as well. With this location, it was a shell, so we put a ton of money into it for construction and equipment. The rent is a lot higher than average, again because of the location, and so it had to be a model that worked and not just a passion project of a dough that took weeks to make, so to speak. So that was a balance we had to find as well, too.
So there's the culinary thing. Did you always like food? Was it something that you always were attracted to? And that's part one of this question. And then the leadership part, because you have a tendency to want to lead from the very beginning, I think, or lead your way through life, or went out on your own very early on. Let's talk about both of those things, the leadership and the culinary.
So yes, the culinary, as I said, out of high school, I was working front of the house and wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm enjoying the restaurant industry. I'm having fun. I'm making money. So let me learn the back end of it, the culinary of it. So as I'd mentioned, I went to the Philadelphia Restaurant School, graduated from there, but it's a trade. And, you graduate from a trade school, especially in food, and you could probably tell somebody how many molecules are in an egg, but, you just don't know how to, these are learned skills. So, and they're learned on site. You can read all the books in the world, but you're not learning until you're actually physically working in a kitchen, touching food and doing things repetition day in and day out, mastering, specific skill sets. The leadership part, that's a good question. Like I said, the first business I owned was Java Joe's. It kind of fell in my lap. Likewise, like I had said about the pizza spot, my girlfriend, now wife or my girlfriend at the time, now wife, we sat in the place. We had heard about this little place. I think it was called the Penguin Palace. And, working nights, I was never a breakfast guy. I was always sleeping in and whatnot. So we we went and stopped and had breakfast one day, and I was kind of sitting there looking around, and I noticed the for sale sign, and I was like, huh, this place needs some fresh paint. It could put a cute little menu in it, clean the seats up, put a new carpet in. This could be something. And amazingly, I won't drag you down the rabbit hole, but about a year to not even about 8 months later, we opened. So the leadership was something that just slowly it came out of necessity as a new business owner. I had the vision, and I had to figure out how to convey that vision to somebody and to my staff and to all the people that helped me. So again, it's a skill set. It's not easy leading. It's not easy telling people what to do, but there's a saying, good generals make great privates. So I think one of the things that made it easier was the fact that I was in the mix with everybody. I was in the mix day to day. And, if we needed to clean something, I was next to my employees on my hands and knees, scrubbing floors and tiles. If we were cleaning chicken, I was, up to my elbows in raw chicken with everybody else. So you kind of lead by example, and you pull the rope with your team, as opposed to walking around in a nice clean chef coat with a clipboard pointing the finger with a pen and.
Absolutely. Can we talk a little bit about name, how to like naming it, creating the business, Doughhead Pizza, because you have a concept here. And let's talk about developing the menu itself, because you're so focused on pizza. How did you pick the ingredients? How do you develop the sauces to match the dough? Because the dough was your focus, but then you've got to create everything around it. So let's sort of dive into that because you're mixing artistry and entrepreneurship and creativity, which in a way is entrepreneurship. So I want to focus and narrow in on the menu items a little bit.
Okay. As far as the name, it was actually picked by one of my partners. And I was like, okay, it's kind of weird, but yeah, I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no. And it came about because we were at a food show, and we were asking people various things about dough, about flours, about all the science behind it. And there was one guy who was like, "Listen, I'm not the baker." He said, "You see that guy over there in the red shirt? He said, go talk to him. He's a real dough head." So that name kind of stuck from that point. And then moving forward, I was like, I don't want to be another Joe's Pizzeria, Tony's Pizzeria, Dave's Pizzeria. I wanted something to be unique and stand out and be a little weird and goofy. And I wanted that to play into not just the name, but the menu itself. So, with some of our ingredients, some of our pizza names are a little on the stranger side, but it makes for good conversation, and people seem to get a kick out of it. As far as the ingredients themselves, I wanted everything fresh. I wanted to use only the best. And I know everybody says that, but that's something that we really, really pride ourselves on. The flour we use it's a very clean, it's an organic flour. It's imported from Italy. The cheese is grande. I think for 12 or 13 years in a row, they've won a blind taste test against various other big name cheese companies in the industry. It's a very clean product. They don't dump it with potato or different starches. If you buy a shredded product, a lot of companies will mix a starch in with it to keep it from sticking and clumping together. Grande does not do that. You put your hand in there, you taste cheese, you taste the creaminess, you taste milk. Our tomatoes are from a company called First Field. They're right over the bridge in New Jersey. I buy direct from them. Everything's clean. There's no citric acid. The cans are BPA free. It's just a clean, consistent product. And the fact that it's local, it's, with our neighbors, right over the bridge in Jersey is all the better. The ingredients, I tried a number of different sausages and pepperonis, and we settled on something that was really to our liking. produce, everything is fresh. There's nothing that comes from a can. We roast our own bell peppers. We saute fresh spinach with roasted garlic. Our Kennett square mushrooms are cut by hand and roasted in the oven and seasoned up. Onions, everything that we get is from a local produce company up the street. Giordano's, another South Philly company that's been around since the early 1900s, if not even late 1800s. So we try to keep it local and support one another in this area as well.
Have you always had that mindset, or is it something that as you got older, you started to understand the importance of more?
No, it's something I grew into. When you're young and you're trying to figure it out, you're trying to figure the matrix of the business out and how to cook and do this and that, and how the throughput of the kitchen should be set up, and what piece of equipment. And it's almost like the ingredients become secondary because you get so caught up in that business mindset. But then as you settle in and you learn, you find that balance that, okay, the kitchen design and throughput becomes second nature. And with the experience of both front of the house and back of the house, that, once you get that kitchen model design down, then you really focus on the ingredients. And I think over time, when I was started out in the cooking world, it was a lot of French Nouveau. How creative and wild and exotic can you get? And you kind of you get lost. You get caught up in your own ego of how eccentric can I be? And you get away, or you lose sight on, hey, look, at the end of the day, if you have a great product, the product speaks for itself. And if you have good skill sets that can, cook that product to the right temperature and degree, then the products will speak for themselves.
Absolutely. I love it. And I agree 100%. And I emphasize the locality of everything. Being in government studies on food and the way food trickles through systems and taxes and sub jobs it creates in communities. It's like, as business owners, I actually, now knowing the information, I can't unknow what I know in a similar way. When I was younger, it was about, okay, how much can we do? What's the profit? How do I build this bigger? How do I scale it? And the ingredients became less important for a period of time until I realized that I'm in the nutrition food business. Mainly, we should probably focus on those ingredients a little more than we are. But I agree with that. I think on the leadership thing, I have a question. Talk to me about hiring your team, training them, getting them into the mindset, because there is the mindset in the culture of the business and who you are and what you want it to be in order for them to deliver that pizza to get the 8.2. There's an anchoring there that I want to emphasize. It didn't just happen. You built a team, you hired them, you trained them. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, that's probably one of the trickier parts. When you put an ad in the paper, you'll get flooded, and you might have to go through 20 or 30 to get that one diamond in a rough. And when you do, as I was fortunate enough to do, you take care of them, because I can't do this on my own. I can't be a cashier. I can't be a pizza cook. I can't be an accountant. I can't be a prep guy all at the same time. So it's so important to lose or not. It's so important to really focus on that. When you get a solid person, to really do your best to take care of them, and to build a team, to build a network. If I'll use my manager in point, Justin, my general manager, Justin. He was a good egg from the beginning. He's worked front of the house. He didn't have as much back of the house experience, but just spending so much time in front of the house and talking with chefs and being exposed to the kitchen world. And he obviously was a pizza guy at some point too. So he just got the model and the understanding, but he was very crucial and very beneficial in helping me develop the systems, and to start vetting through our other team members. So it's, like attracts like. So if you have a good person, most likely he's got a network of people that are somewhere in the realm of the mindset and the energy and the lifestyle that he lives. And that came true. We had another person that we found. We dug our hooks in them, and he's been a phenomenal cook and a great personality for the business. And it's just kind of, we grew in that sense, that their friends and family kind of pulled one another in, and it's taken some time, but we've got a really solid crew. One of the guys, Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V's known as, he really emphasizes that, to not, obviously it's, as an entrepreneur, it's important to focus on your business, but he kind of emphasizes, and I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, that if you put a large portion of focusing your attention on your employees, the ones, the team that you have built, that they'll be that much more excited to come to work and run the shop and do the right thing by the business. So if you invest your time and energy in them, you'll get a bigger payback on the business side. And happy employees make for a great work environment, and they're not grinding to come in to go to work to do their hours and clock out and go home. They're there. We're having fun. We're having a good time. We're working hard, but it's a fun environment. I'm paying everybody as best I can. As an entrepreneur, you're always looking at the numbers. You're constantly looking at the numbers, but I'm trying to, I try to be as generous as I can and taking care of my team, because they take great care of me.
Yeah. Talk to me about building relationships with customers, clients, things like that. You have 40 years of experience, and same with vendors. Talk to me about both of those, because I think they are very, very, very important in the way that you have particularly built your business.
Yes, as customers, that just kind of comes organically. When we first opened, I made it a point to try to focus my attention up front as much as I could, to just talk to somebody. Say, hey, how you doing? Hey, you're from the neighborhood? Where are you from? Did you let me know how the pizza is? You just talk them up. And when you talk to people, you just ask questions, because it's easy for people to, kind of talk about their world. And that just kind of, Philly's is a tough neighborhood. So people kind of have their guards up, their shoulders are tight and ready, but when you start talking and asking questions, you see it in their eyes, you see it in their body language. You just develop a relationship, and, always make sure that, hey, John was in last week, and, oh, John, he's in, a week later. John, how was that the grandma style pie you got last week? Joe, it was great. Dude, that's awesome, man. Thank you so much. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. What are you getting today? And we're gonna give the Jane Doe a try this week. And I'm like, you'll love it, dude. I tried all different kinds of pepperonis, and this was the top of my pick. So it's really just talking to your customers. And there's going to be those times, we're human beings. We make mistakes. If a pizza gets burnt, or it's the wrong ingredients, all you can do is apologize. I'm sorry for the inconvenience, the frustration, but let me make it up to you. You refund the money, you give them a little something next time around, whatever. You just build those relationships, and you just be honest with people, and it'll come back in dividends.
I love it. I think it does matter greatly. Talk to me about naming the pizzas, all of that thing. There's like upstairs neighbor, French onion, granny panties. I mean, there's creative names here. Penny Blanco. Talk to me about how you came up with all these cool. I mean, it's great because I love it. I think it's important to create characters in your food. It's one of the reasons McDonald's is who it is, and they're one of the OGs of creating franchise repeatable businesses, but they did it through marketing and advertising at every single level of their business. It's what you're doing here.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
It's just kind of my goofy, slightly offset, jaded. I'm 54 now, so the dad jokes are accumulating. Just kind of just having fun with it, making goofy names. Obviously we could call it things, the Broad Street Bullies, all the Billy Penn, everything related to Philly. But I personally, there's nothing wrong with it. I just feel like it's been done before, and I just wanted to kind of make it silly and have fun with it, and play off the doughhead pizza name. There's the dough mama, has it's a crumbled broccoli with roasted garlic. Mom's always telling you to eat your vegetables. The upstairs neighbor, when we first moved in, it sounded like they were constantly moving metal chairs around. And every time we were in there doing work, there all day long, off and on, there would be neighbors. The furniture was just being moved around, and we were like, "What the hell's going on up there?" So we were like, "Well, we got to name one the upstairs neighbor." The Duck Norris was one I did. I did roasted duck confit with shiitake mushrooms, red onions. Yeah, just kind of having fun and just coming up with some, like I said, dad joke kind of style names, and making it, and it's a conversation starter. I can't tell you how many people come in and just say like, "Oh, I love the names, where do you come up with this?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It's just, like I said, the dad joke humor in me."
I love the Oliver Gluten John. I love these names. I was laughing at them as I was preparing this morning. I was wanting to wait until we got into it, but yes, I love it. One of the things I just want to touch on for the audience too, in naming companies, everyone knows Pizza Hut at this point, bad, good, indifferent, industrial pizza, whatever. But the reason they came up with their names is because at the time, the area code we didn't worry about area codes in our phone numbers. And so they just needed a phone number that could be attached to any area code if they expanded, or at that time, just that location that could fit the word pizza in it. And Pizza Hut became the numbers that were available for them to create their name so people could dial it up and order their pizza. So it's just, these things are just things to think about. Sometimes we get restricted in ideas and creativity when the solution is just right in front of us. I particularly like growing up in food. The word doughhead was a term used for the person that cared a lot about the dough, even more than the pizza itself. And so I can for me, it's like, it's obvious. Why hasn't someone done this before? And so I think I love it from that perspective as well. So I just want to anchor that as well for the audience. Growth, where are you hoping this goes? Where is your trajectory going now? Like some of that.
Well, obviously, we want to continue growing. We want to continue, getting our weekly numbers up and up. It's been a long haul for me in these past 40 years. I've, bounced from different, like I said, worked various restaurants and hotels. Then I had the breakfast place. I had the catering company, the fast casual. Now we're starting, we're obviously in the pizza game now. So it's been a long road to get here. I have a personal goal that, the debt that we are in to get the place open is about almost 2/3 of the way paid off. I think hopefully at this pace, it'll take me another year to be debt free. And once that's the case, I can really focus and breathe. Do we want to open another location or two or three? It's definitely possible. We've really got a good bead on the model now. So to open another one could easily be done. It's a matter of, do I want to personally, and, finding that right team again for another location. So these are all things that are just kind of on the back burner, because I really want to focus on just getting this foundation paid in full, and just, those last couple loose ends tightened up, and really just tweaking this model. We're a good ways there. There's always going to be, something new and something different that we want to try.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm kind of lost for words with that, but yeah, I don't have a solid answer what the future holds. I'm just really focused on getting what we have ship tight.
Yeah, let's quick. Where can they find you guys online, on Instagram, on social media, your address, just quickly for the audience, because we talked about the menu. I just want to point everyone in a place to go.
Yeah, we're located in the heart of South Philadelphia. Our address is 833 Wharton Street. We're right across the street. The phone I'm talking to you on, I could throw it underhand and hit the infamous Pat Steaks. So anybody who comes to Philly, they always want to try a Philly cheesesteak. So Pat's is one of the bigger one of the bigger places to hit. So if you can't find us, look for Pat's and Gino's, and you'll be sure to find us. We do have a website, doughheadpizza.com. We are on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and we just opened up a TikTok account as well. So we're expanding into that world. I brought a team on board to kind of help us navigate those waters, since that's not my wheelhouse. But yeah, that's where you can find us, and you can always call us. Our number is 215-770-6790 for the old school people that want to just call and put an order in.
What's the most important thing for you in your core values in business and leadership? What do you think that anchors you the most, that is best reflected in your business because of those core values in you?
I think just focusing on customer service and food quality. I'll be brutally honest, I'm not a good pizza man. It's hard for me to work the stick on a Friday night making pizza. I'm just hyper compulsive. Every pizza I make has to look like it's going on the cover of a pizza magazine. So I'm much slower than my pizza guys. And, but that's where my passion is, about, making a quality pizza, making it as best we can. And, and taking care of, the employees, as I had mentioned, they're the horses that pull this wagon, and the customers, obviously we can't, the customers are as equally as important, because they're the ones buying the product, and taking care of them and making them feel a part of the family. That kind of a play on the Doughhead Pizza name is, my family, our pizza customers, I refer to them as Doughheads. And, once they're in, somebody will, hey, we tried your pizza for the first time. They send us an email. Thank you so much. I appreciate your business. Welcome to the Doughhead family. We look forward to seeing you again.
Man, that's awesome. I really like this. I think the core values of work ethic being in there also, just, getting it done, pivoting when necessary, definitely are mixed in there. Is there anything you want to share with the audience, Joseph, as we bring this to an end? Or is there anything that you feel that we didn't cover today that you wanted to cover? Anything about your businesses, your future, anything like that I didn't cover today that you want to touch on? Or any advice you can give the audience that I didn't get to either?
Yeah, there's two things that are just popping in my head right now. One of my former employees, he was a great pizza man. He was always pushing us to, hey, let's add this to the menu, and let's add these chicken bites, and let's do, this kind of donut and whatnot. And we were still too early in the game. I wasn't comfortable. And he came from the Domino's world. You had mentioned about Pizza Hut. And he was constantly pushing it. And I'm just like, I appreciate it. I know where you're coming from, dude, but we're not there yet, man. This pizza's not where I want it to be. And ironically, I came across an ad, or an article, I should say, about Pizza Hut, and I read it to him. And I was like, look, man, I know you come from the Domino's world. They're a lot smarter than I am. They've been in the game longer. They have how many thousands of locations? But here's an excerpt. I just found the article. For the majority of their existence, Domino's offered only two sizes of pizzas, 11 toppings, and one soft drink, which was a cola. They also offered pizza on a delivery or carry-out basis. They believe the simplicity of their menu resulted in higher quality products and more efficient business. And I'm like, look, man, it just says it all right there. Kind of keeping the KISS method of what I say, keeping it simple, stupid. That was the touchstone that Domino's started off on.
Well, and I love
ingredients and focus on quality. Sorry.
Go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry about that. I just want to emphasize Domino's also, they were so into efficiency that they're like, No, 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 no. We're getting rid of in-store dining. We're only doing delivery. So that became their whole focus. Their pizza, their crust, their sauce, their system, even their chicken bites are all delivered for delivery optimization. It is not the same experience as getting a pizza in a store. I just want to emphasize that for everyone. They stuck to one niche, and that's all they've stuck to. They still do it in all their commercials. We're going to fix the potholes for everyone. Yep, they're going to fix the potholes. Why? Okay, now they have the cars that are electric that put the pizza in while they're driving the delivery. Why? Because that is their only focus. Okay, and all of the additions to the menu actually are not complicating their business by complicating their menu. They're sticking to their core value, which is delivery and having the best delivered pizza that can somehow last and be warm and whatever an hour later, or pizza, chicken bites an hour later, figuring out how to keep drinks cold in the delivery process. That's their whole goal as a company. Just so you guys know, even with the pasta and whatever else they've done now. And some of that's just companies do things to try to steal market share from other fast food companies, or chicken business is popular right now. So throw chicken on the menu for what became popular, like the to-go spaghetti market and not the Eastern United States. This big, like, get spaghetti by the gallons, and like they look like chicken buckets from the theater. I'm not kidding, or fried chicken buckets. And that's what the pasta stuff comes in. So Domino's tapped into those markets, and they figured out how to make deliverable items that, it's not the best pasta and system and whatever, but you can have pasta with your pizza that has that's deliverable than a lot of other places deliver. But it's just, they cut corners, as we talked about, in ingredients and in quality for sure. So
yeah, exactly. And that was kind of that excerpt I read was at the very beginning of their venture into it. So it made a lot of sense. And as you're saying, yeah, they've gotten away from that.
Yeah. But they're still
I think,
sticking to their main business, which is just deliver good food to people. And main is pizza, and they kind of, everything else just sells with it.
That's it. If there's any other advice I could give, there's a saying, I think it was Robert Kiyosaki wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. So, always surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, more experienced. And the last bit that we didn't touch on, I won't go too far down the rabbit hole, which is a big thing in especially the pizza business, if not the food business in general, obviously, is the third-party apps. They're a tremendous way to market yourself, to open your customer base. But like anything, there are fees and whatnot involved, and they're taking a large portion of fees, some of which we're putting back on the customer. It's just you if you're starting out new, they're very important to get in that world, but you have to have an end game to be able to market your own customers. Otherwise, you are completely and totally surrendered to their platforms. They control your customers, not you. So we use all the major ones. I'm in the process now of figuring out trying to look at the numbers to say, hey, look, if I go exclusive with one particular to get the best rate, what does that do to me? Do I lose customers? Will I gain new ones? The customers I lose, I may end up making out better from my profit. I may lose sales, but my profit margin might increase. So this is a very complicated issue. It's just something to, if you're going to get into that world, do your homework and make sure you have an end game. Don't just lay down and say, hey, look, we're going to advertise on these companies, on these platforms, and they're going to do all the legwork for us, which they do. They certainly need to get paid for what they do. Absolutely 100%, but it can get out of hand real quick. And there's a lot of positives and there's some negatives dealing with them, but I think it's important at the end of the day to, once you have your systems and everything up and running, that you've got to backtrack and get control over your customers again, so that you can market to them and take care of them as you feel the need to, and not be a slave to another third party company where you're just simply a number.
Yeah, I love this actually because it is important. Do you do your own delivery also?
We do not. It's hard to compete against them,
Yeah.
and on one hand, the positives are you have drivers that are at your expense at any given moment with every order that's placed.
Yeah.
So you're not dealing with the liability and the expense of your personal drivers, and trying to navigate their routes as the orders come in. There are point of sale systems that have higher end technology that can route the drivers and whatnot. But like anything, it comes with a price tag. So that's why I'm saying it's a deep rabbit hole to go down, looking at costs of a high end point of sale, looking at the cost of having your own delivery team versus piggybacking off of these third party apps, which everybody uses nowadays because everybody's got a phone in their back pocket, and trying to weigh out those costs and expenses. And, one of the bonuses too, if their delivery drivers make a mistake, they're usually pretty quick to reimburse the customer and us. If we're found that, look, we did everything on our side, this was, the responsibility of your driver. So, there are those are some of the positives, but it can be tricky to navigate, but I think they're important because it's the way of the world these days.
Yeah, one of the things that I've had to discuss with a lot of businesses is as that volume grows to an extent where it becomes like 40 to 50% of your business in the delivery game, like you have to manage it during those hours specifically with someone making sure that packaging and stuff is done directly. And is it part of your expenses? Yeah. Already on top of the delivery expenses? Yeah. Are the drivers possible people that you can market your business well with if you treat them right? Yeah, but on the flip side of the coin, are there drivers that take advantage, and do you have to make sure they tap yes to receiving the order and heavily monitor it like someone that's not inside your own organization? Yeah, for sure. So I think that that's the hardest part is finding that balance, find time, find what type of resources do I need to put towards this? Can I still sell with putting all those resources towards it and making a profit? And then inflation on top of it with the food costs is like the craziest thing. And the delivery system percentages that they charge have significantly gone up the last 3 years. If any business really kept track of it, we've gone from like 15 to 18% max to like 30% now, average. So that's a
Yeah.
lot of the cost of a ticket going out the door for a delivery system. And while, yes, I agree with you, there's access to it. I think it's just in order to manage that and how much resources that particular business is costing you in order to do towards delivery, it's also necessary to think about what kind of resource from a human customer service, driver service perspective, looking at the drivers as independent contractors, a special human in some of those regards, holding those drivers accountable as someone that can also make sure the drinks are there and the pepper flakes and the truffle oil ones that sound so yummy on your menu and so on and so forth. And so by that, I mean the truffle oil, hot oil with the flakes in it, I believe that everyone talks about on Yelp. So I was doing my research. The people love them. They love it.
The honey chipotle, maybe.
What is it? Hold on. I'll tell you here.
Y-
It says maybe it is the honey chipotle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's kind of our twist of everyone is using the Mike's Hot Honey.
Yeah.
We kind of make our own in house. We blend our own honey with chipotle peppers, and so again, we're trying to do our own thing, different than what others are doing, but put our twist on it as well.
I mean, what's your favorite part about all of this? This will be my last question for you. What's your favorite part about doing all of this as a business?
Ooh, what's my favorite part about all this? I think now is seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Any new startup is a new startup, man. You have to live there. You have to put the time in. I mean, I was there at 6 o'clock in the morning, working till midnight, the first 7 days a week in the beginning. And I think now that it's kind of, those weeks where I didn't take a paycheck and just kind of keep pushing and out there hand delivering menus door to door and whatnot. There's a huge amount of stress and anxiety in the beginning, but I think the best part now is seeing that it's in motion. I've got a team. I've got the daily routine that we're in. We're getting the reviews. The money's coming in. I'm paying off debt. I'm able to pay my bills every week. So I think seeing the success of it is probably the most rewarding. I'm not 100% there and by any stretch, but it's heading in the right direction. And when you're in your business for yourself, your head's down, you're into it, you're a day-to-day grind, you live it. Just because you go home at night doesn't mean you're not thinking about your business. I think stepping back and taking a look at the past, it's been 2.5 years that we've been open, 3.5 that we, from the time we said, hey, we're going to do this, that it's amazing to think that, there was a time I was sitting outside writing ideas down about a pizza shop. Here I am doing an interview on a podcast about, being a pizza shop owner and everything. So I think the success is there. And I don't mean that just financially. The success of just saying like, man, it's hard work, but the reward is there. It's rewarding to look at what we've built and know that there's a future in this.
Man, I love it. Thank you very much, Joseph, for coming on the show. Will you tell the audience one more time where they can find you online and on social media?
Yep, we can name we're at www.doughhit.com. We're same handle for our Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And our address, 833 Wharton Street in South Philadelphia, on the corner of 9th and Wharton. If you can't find us, look for the Pats, the triangle where Pats and Geno's are. We're down there. It's a big tourist area. I think I was told that more people come to visit that part of South Philly or Philly in general than they do to go see the Liberty Bell. So if you're visiting Philly and you're in the area, come in and say hi and grab a slice. And anybody who has any future entrepreneurs out there or aspiring entrepreneurs, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to talk with you, when time allows, and just try to give you some plays from my book if I can help. And I certainly had a lot of help on the way and would love to, repay it back in any way I could.
Yeah, I appreciate your time, Joseph. I want to dive into social media and stuff with you too at some point. I have some other questions we didn't ask, so I'd love to eventually have you back on the show as you feel you have more to talk about maybe or want to share more. But I definitely have some more things I want to talk to you about. I just think your insight and your knowledge and your experience is to be looked at. One of the things I've talked about a lot is, if you look at Shake Shack and we just talked about Domino's, it was restaurateurs that took something simple off their menu to help do an event. It was just a burger and fries off one of their restaurant menus to help out a food cart, and eventually a shack. But either way, they just simplified their menu. They took something really great. They found their all-star and they simplified it. And it's important to build your business off of that. And just what we discussed, and I discussed the chicken and the pasta and all the brownies and all that stuff came later for Domino's. Domino's built their empire off of pizza and delivering soda. And they were part of the hip generation with Pepsi. And they had a really cool character named Yonoid. So what they did is they focused on delivery and they made everything about that as their core value in their customer service and their products. Same with Shake Shack. Shake Shack took one product. It's about everything. They don't have a complicated menu. They don't do a lot of things. But look how big their stores are. Look how many of them there are. Built off of a simple equation and keeping it simple, but within the world of that. So there's obviously different burgers, or I think they offer a chicken sandwich, but all of it falls within the footprint of their expertise and the expertise of the employees that they hope to have. Because if it's too complicated and the menu's too complicated and the ordering's too complicated, it's not going to help anyone, and it's not going to make it any easier to train your staff. So,
yep, I agree 1,000% with that. Maybe I wouldn't have agreed 30 years ago, put my head down. I'm going to do it my way. I know what I'm doing. But over time, you find out, like I said, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. So these big companies are successful for a reason, and follow their playbook, and I think you'll find success. That's my hope and goal anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. If you like this episode, want to support the entrepreneurs on the show, like I said, support their businesses, follow them on their social media, comment, like their posts, go eat at their restaurants when they're in the city, or order their food if they're on Goldbelly, or if they're a consumer packaged good, order their food somewhere, go find it at a grocery store, whatever it is. That's how we can support the entrepreneurs on the show. Also, obviously, like the episodes, comment, subscribe, share their stories. This is how we get the word out there. This is how we understand their brand. Every pizza we just heard about is a reflection of Joseph and who he is right now, and his business right now is part of those core values. It will evolve with Joseph. So, we grow ourselves, we grow our businesses, and that's hard to understand because we always want to be so involved in our businesses, not working on our businesses. And so, but we do work on our businesses by growing ourselves in many, many ways. We heard about 12 pizza books. It's important. We need to be endless in our pursuit of learning, of growing, of gaining skills that we've never had before to take the opportunities that are ahead. Does that mean we get rid of the other skills? No. It just means that they're skills or tools in our tool belt that are meant to be expanded upon with new skills that we gain by consistently learning in the future. So thank you, everyone, for listening in. I hope that helps. I hope this episode really focuses everyone on, yes, are recipes complicated? Yes, do we have multiple sources for those recipes if we source locally? Yes, of course, sourcing through a U.S. food and a Cisco is easy because we want things to be easy. But guess what? It pays dividends to invest in our community. It pays dividends to invest in our customers through investing in our community, and it pays dividends through investing in our employees through also investing in our community, starting with the way we source everything. It starts right there, that very decision, and the Stoics saying of how I do one thing is how I do everything is true in our businesses too, as we just heard. How did he double business overnight? He had the infrastructure prepared to handle the doubling. It's a question I didn't ask, but it is true. If your business suddenly doubles, your order's going to double. That puts a strain on your business. You're running out of dough. You're doing whatever. For the audience, it took building the infrastructure ahead of the opportunity. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. I love you guys, and we're out. Thank you, Joseph.